Welcome back, wood lovers. It's Tommy Tonewoods. It's Monday, and we are starting the week off with a classic tonewood, a tonewood that I'm sure many of you are familiar with, and I would dare to say that you may have built your very first acoustic guitar from it. That's right, we're looking at Dalbergia latifolia, Indian rosewood, East Indian rosewood, and this is a very nice set. This is one of our Timberline tonewoods that we brought in last week. Here are the sides for it. This is a very pungent smelling set. It has got that very typical rosewood scent to it. Look at the colours in that. They're really, really lovely. Yes. Some people are really not into the smell of Indian rosewood. I can never tell. Sometimes I'm really into it and other times I'm not. It can be very, very floral, very rose scented. Other people tend to say it smells like a gent's toilet on a Friday night. I don't know. So there is lots to say about East Indian rosewood. It really is a classic. It is a wood that is very widely associated with the acoustic guitar. It was the wood that superseded or followed on from Brazilian rosewood at the Martin Guitar Company when stock started to run down. So in about 1969, I think it was, Indian rosewood became the kind of default wood for Martin guitars. Indian rosewood is really easy to work with. It bends really nicely. It's why it's a good kind of beginner wood if you're thinking about building your very first guitar. I usually always advise people to go with Indian rosewood. It's reasonably inexpensive. It's pretty easy to get a hold of. As far as the Dalbergias go, Indian rosewood, it's one of the bigger Dalbergia species. It grows tall, it grows straight. Getting nice quartz sawn boards is pretty straightforward. This is what was referred to as an old stock. So this was imported into the UK, I think by Touchstone Tonewoods. Well, yes, I know by Touchstone Tonewoods because there's a little note on here. It says July 1997, and then I guess Bob at Timberline bought that stock and he's selling it as old stock. So this was originally brought in by Touchstone Tonewoods in '97. So it's been hanging around for a while. It is very dry. It's completely flat and very straight. Super stable. As far as sustainability goes with rosewoods, Indian rosewood is kind of the way to go. It's very heavily restricted by the Indian government. You're not allowed to fell wild Indian rosewood. Even if it's on private land, you have to have tons of permits to be able to sell it. In the kind of at the end of the 19th century, lots of plantations were set up for growing Indian rosewood. It's also widely used as a shade tree for coffee plantations. So Indian coffee prefers to grow in the shade, and often Indian rosewood is the tree of choice. I tend to find that the plantation grown Indian rosewood tends to be really quite purple. There are definitely purple hues in this kind of old stock, or what you might refer to as old growth Indian rosewood, but it tends to dull right back to a deep, rich, almost Brazilian-y kind of brown colour. But the newer plantation stuff tends to be a little wider grained, a bit lighter and a bit more kind of purple. But this is, there's almost some black running through this. It's very nice, really kind of deep, dark chocolatey brown with just a hint of that purple. I've used Indian rosewood a couple of times now, both using old growth sets that were kind of traded. I originally, I think when I was doing my apprenticeship, I built two guitars from Indian rosewood, number 7 and number 5, I think. Both sets I think I got from Julian Gaffney in some whiskey related trade, probably. One of which went into an OM that was, I built two OMs side by side. One was mahogany, one was Indian rosewood. and the idea was to build them as identically as I possibly could, but only changing the back and sides. And that was, you know, a really interesting and integral part of my learning experience doing my apprenticeship. So if you own number, I want to say 6, if you own number 6, an Engelmann spruce and an Indian rosewood, shoot me a comment, send me a message or an email. I'd love to know how you're getting on with that guitar. It was the very last OM shape that I built as well, and then I switched my OM style to a Model M. Anyway, I digest. Let's give this a tap. Ooh, there we go. It's not super glassy. It's definitely not like that Madagascar rosewood that I tapped on whenever it was. It blew my mind and everyone else's mind as well, apparently. It's not too in your face. Let's give it a little blast with the magic spray. That's a really, oh yeah. Wow. It's almost got like a Macassar ebony vibe to it. Isn't that nice? Really dark, not too purple. There's kind of some black lines in there, but it really is. It's almost Macassar ebony-like. Indian rosewood works really nicely with Sitka spruce. That's kind of the traditional kind of Martin popularized combination. I built a double O in Sitka spruce and Indian rosewood for my uncle very early on in my career, and that was a lovely guitar. It was warm, but it was still articulate and focused. Oh, I'm really pleased that I bought this set. Indian rosewood is not something that I get a lot of call for. It's often seen as kind of like an entry-level tonewood. It's quite often the kind of standard wood choice that luthiers offer. You know, it's either you can have for your base price model Indian rosewood and mahogany. That almost does Indian rosewood a bit of a disservice because it really is a stalwart classic, and it makes a really fine guitar. If you've built an Indian rosewood guitar, let me know in the comments. I had some really nice photos of Myrtle guitars come in yesterday, which I really enjoyed. Thank you for sending those in. Let's see some Indian rosewood guitars. Let me know some of your experiences with it. How did you enjoy working with it? What do you think of the smell? What do you think of the sound? Unfortunately, I can't get to all of the comments now, which is kind of wild. But I read them all, and I really appreciate you guys taking part and keeping this thing going. Been talking to somebody this morning about bringing in some more Australian woods. I know you guys were pretty pumped on the Australian series that I did, so we're going to look at some more Australian timbers. So, for today, this has been a bumper episode. I hope you've enjoyed it. See you tomorrow.